Wasn't that wonderful? Thank you, Alankar. Give a huge round of applause.
Overcome with emotion. I want to start by asking a very simple question. What makes a great institution? Possibility could be that our rock star had a compact with the principle of his time that as long as he produced 2 first-rate plays, he would not be required to fill an attendance register. That's one input. A great faculty, and I see so many of my colleagues, Kavita ji here, a great faculty makes for a great institution. But more than that, I think a great institution is defined, and I'm not trying to pamper you guys, by its student body. So let me say that sometimes it's difficult to get into these institutions, especially with these crazy kinds of high school markings. I believe this is one institution, unless you get 100%, you can't get in. Thank God that we were born in an earlier generation. But let me start by saying that institutions are celebrated, and today we are having the first in a series of those celebrations. So let me request the publisher of this volume, the head of Rupa, to come up here and take a bow, because it was his idea. So come up here, let them give you a warm round of applause. I'm afraid I've changed the format of this because I was very worried that you would get a series of long speeches one after the other. So I'm going to do some moderation and have some fun with you guys. Heartiest congratulations. You not only produced a volume, it is going to be a bestseller. I'm sure about that. But more than that, it encapsulates the memories, the lives of some people in diverse fields who've done remarkably well. So congratulations to Rupa and to you personally, because he came up with the idea. And I want to publicly acknowledge that. And he'll get an opportunity to speak also, but later. Thank you. When he came up with the idea, it was like somebody was waiting for somebody to come up with the idea. We had to do something. So we drew up a list of 100 possible names that could be considered for inclusion in an anthology like this. Around 100. And my worry was that we would find it difficult to persuade some of them, because there were people either who were extremely busy with their own professional work, would not find the time to write. But I was remarkably surprised. A little effort, personal calls, and almost all of them agreed. 1 or 2 finally didn't make it, because whilst they said yes, they did not finally submit their chapters. Otherwise this volume would have been even thicker, but this is just the right number of people that we require. What I'm planning to do today is to have an interactive session with all of you. I'm going to not introduce in the sense that any of these 5 need any introduction. They're all celebrated. They're all people who have done remarkably well in their fields. But I'm going to tease them a bit. And I'm going to ask them, now, if I may start with that end. Not only because he got the loudest applause, well deservedly, when we came in, but the rock star, Jab We Met. You know, I used to serve in a country where Mother Nature or God, whoever provides these things, had provided the most beautiful water bodies, mountains, and I asked myself a question. What did God do to compensate? You'll get your So somebody said that they had a conversation with God and said कि हाँ वो mountains are beautiful, the water bodies are very nice, but जो लोग वहाँ पे रखे हैं, they make up for to produce a balance. So when I look at the life of this rock star, somebody whom we've taken great pride in, the product not only of this university but of this college, and I found two little snippets. One is that he is very proud to admit that he used to travel by the Delhi transport undertaking buses and never bought a ticket in his life. So this is the first admission of a celebrity on ticketless travel. And he has an explanation which I'm sure he might or might not want to share with you. And the second is he had a compact with the principle of the day. And that was that as long as you produce two first-rate plays, theatrical productions, you will not be asked for attendance. Now this principal whom we are referring to, Shri P.C. Verma, a highly respected person, but I had an experience with several other principals and my wife has ensured that I will not, Lakshmi has said, I will not relate some of the other incidents of other principals. This college is famous for many things. First-rate academic achievements, the world of theatre, debates, we have many stalwarts here. But it also has a very important role to play in public agitation. When I was a student, I think second year, there was a film festival held at Plaza and some of our students didn't get tickets. So they staged a protest. And at the end of the protest, the cinema hall owner was looking for them. He said, "Bhai, jo kar lo, jitne ticket chahiye le jao, but protest mat karna." So we have a healthy tradition. I want to invite you to speak. What is your biggest takeaway from your years in college? You say, for instance, some of your works have been inspired by the college. How did you combine this rebellious streak, non-conformist, highly expressive, productive artist with these kinds of streaks? And I think I also saw somewhere in yours another piece that, a little bit of violence is not a bad thing. Because the reason you could travel ticketless is because one ticket inspector actually tried to enforce the rules, but he was dealt a treatment, therefore he never asked for tickets. So I'm just on a lighter vein. Let me request our rock star to just share his experience of Hindu College and Delhi University. You have the floor, my friend.
Thank you very much, Mr. Puri.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thank you so much. We are very, very privileged to have celebrities drawn from different walks of life. We're very fortunate. When I wrote to Shri Amitabh Bachchan ji, his first response was that I think he said this in his own piece, that I spent more time behind the gates of a very famous ladies' college, so my academic achievements. But he's written a beautiful foreword. You see that. So somebody who will be pretty soon Chief Justice of India, somebody who's running one of India's most successful firm of, you call them solicitors here or do you lawyers? The Vice Chancellor of the university, an award-winning, not author, but highly acclaimed figure in the world of literature, not only through her own writings, Namita ji. But I think what stands out in all this is that all the people that we have listed here, and there will be other such events where some of the other authors will be invited, and some of you, if you can come also. So this is a series to celebrate Delhi University's golden 100 years. But let me move on now to Namita ji. I mean, the literary acclaim all that well earned. But I have not come across many people who decided during the course of a highly eventful time in college that she was willing to forsake the doctor title and yet, stand by what she stood for, went for writing and succeeded. So again, what is your takeaway from? You went to, if I should say so, somebody may describe it, a somewhat stern academic environment where the Mother Superior, if I may refer to her as such, was not entirely happy that you exercised one of the most important choices of your life at the young age of 18. So Namita ji, please share with us what your major takeaways are, and if you reflect back on that period, would you have done something differently? Namita ji, I must add my personal appreciation is too mild a term. Somebody who goes to a college like Jesus and Mary, participates in the beauty pageant as well, participates in a students' union election. I don't know, in this college we didn't call it a student union, we used to call it college parliament. You get elected vice president, you decide to choose courses of study which are not then considered to be entirely mainstream, go off into an area, and then you are confronted by a system which is, to say the least, non-academic. You have not studied this paper, you can't appear for it. You can say you can't take the exam because you haven't attended the classes, to which there is another answer. But surely you can sit in the library and prepare for something. And the fact that you went on to write your first novel, somebody told me that beware of what you get right first. That's what you get defined by the rest of your life. But I must say, from after that, now you're the Tsarina of the Indian literary scene, your stewardship of the Jaipur Literary Festival along with my friend Sanjoy Roy. So I see in your experience no regrets whatsoever, and I applaud you for that, and I think all of us should applaud you for that. You did things your way, and you did them extremely well, so congratulations. I want to now move on to a very distinguished person in the field of academics. A lot of people distinguish themselves in the field of academics, but I once was told the distinction between an economist and a good economic administrator, and I think everybody knows that. We could have selected any one of many vice chancellors, but I think Professor, your tenure as vice chancellor came at a time when some of the major challenges that confront us, both in terms of education policy, a shift to a longer 4-year term, but you were well equipped, if I may say. You went to an elite college, something across the road, that's how you guys refer to us. I had the privilege of being there also for a year or so, but I spent 5 years here, 3 years as an undergraduate, and 2 years being registered here and as a postgraduate student. You have contributed both to the first phase and very much to the shaping of the second phase. How would you regard the evolution of the university? I have some regrets, I must tell you. I sometimes feel that the university is probably a leading university, the most, successful centers of excellence in the country, but there is much more that can be done. You share that. Of course, I don't expect you only to answer that, but tell us about your life story and what you see ahead for this university and its evolution to claim its rightful place amongst the major centers of excellence in the world. व्यास जी ने बताया कि वो जब दिल्ली ट्रांसपोर्ट अंडरटेकिंग की बसेस में सफर करते थे तो टिकटलेस जाते थे। उन्होंने ये भी कहा कि बताया अपने फीस में कि उन्होंने उनको एक बारी निमंत्रण मिला इंद्रप्रस्थ कॉलेज ने थिएट्रिकल प्ले के लिए। उन्होंने कहा कि उनको डीटीसी बस पे ट्रैवल करने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ी क्योंकि आधी हिंदू कॉलेज की पॉपुलेशन जिसके पास मोटरसाइकिल थे वो लाइन लगा के उनके साथ जाया करते थे। और जब वो यहाँ पे थिएट्रिकल प्ले कर रहे थे तो इवन दैट पार्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट पॉपुलेशन जिसको नॉडिंग एक्वेंटेंस नहीं थी थिएटर के साथ या कोई लेना देना नहीं था क्योंकि किसी और कॉलेज की पॉपुलेशन स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ आ रही थी, so they all were in the hall all the time, including during the rehearsals. But there is a more serious level of tolerance. I think it was around 42 or so when Sir Maurice Gayer was the Vice Chancellor. And the students of this esteemed institution, यहाँ पे बड़ी-बड़ी हरकतें हुई हैं। एक बारी कुछ हॉस्टल के लड़कों को रात को भूख लगी तो उन्होंने वो क्या हमारी कैंटीन ने नहीं क्या वो जो उसको रेड कर दिया। But they indulged, the students of Hindu College, Ramjas College and St. Stephen's College indulged in violence. But it was not violence in the sense of individual acts of criminality. This was violence in the context of a growing nationalist fervor. So Sir Maurice Gayer was told to take action against these students. And I read in your piece, and he looked the other way. Now, Sir Maurice Gayer is the Vice Chancellor. He is there to uphold academic discipline. But he reads the pulse, he reads the trends, and I'm sure no one condones acts of violence, and especially organized violence, and yet he looks the other way. And I think that again makes for a great institution. It is not something on me against you, but that is how the Center of Excellence in Learning flourishes. So thank you very much. Now I want to invite Lakshmi, but before I do that, I want to ask her, and I have to be very, I must tell you, very clinical in the questions I ask here. Because she appeared in the UPSC exam, and as somebody said, she was the youngest to qualify. She was right on top of the list. The rest is history. She served as ambassador, then left it for the United Nations, where she was part of the establishment of a new entity called UN Women. She served as Assistant Secretary General there. And maybe because of my other batchmates and others, I have been, and some other Foreign Service colleagues, I have been a convert to the feminist cause almost from the day go. But there is something in her piece I wanted to ask her what it means. It says here, there were enough young women in the university who rejected the premises of the three streams of feminism: liberal feminism, radical liberalism, and difference feminism. Now if you ask a somewhat subdued member of the male species like me, all three look to me or sound to me as different brands of mainstream feminism. You have the floor, madam. Thank you very much. So, basically the answer I got to my question on the three different nuances or streams of feminism, liberal feminism, radical liberalism, and difference feminism, I think it's very much a self-evident truism if you look at it like that. But Lakshmi's been somewhat modest in terms of her later career in the UN, and I remember some fascinating discussions between her and her friend Gloria Steinem, and the kind of feminism. You see, it's very well easy to talk about feminism and it becomes a streak which becomes, it can take any forms. But to give it an international platform, to make sure that these are issues which are common to the issues of empowerment, the issues of development, cutting across countries with different stages of development. A reference to something I said, and forgive me, Professor, I don't know, maybe it's the English language, but St. Stephen's College produces more pompous people than most other colleges. So there was this senior foreign service officer, and I can see Ambassador Dogra in the front seat having a hearty laugh, who did very well in the civil service. He was very politically active also, even as a civil servant. And yeah, I don't know, I didn't take any name, you are taking the name. I didn't take any name. Yeah, so two of them went to, two people from the foreign service. St. Stephen's College had this great tradition. St. Stephen's College had this great tradition that if you did well in life, they used to, instead of calling it the dining hall and as we do, they used to say, come and dine in residence or something like that. Some of the faculty used to sit on a high table. I enjoyed it. I was after the faculty for a year. So there is this gentleman who went there and he wrote, I am what I am because of the college, capital C, meaning St. Stephen's College. So the guy who came after, also a foreign service officer, somewhat a little more irreverent, who wrote underneath that, why blame the college? So, the fact is, if you spend 3 years, even 3 years in an institution, it comes off. And what you gain, what you give, it stays with you as part of your life. Then if you spend, my friend, he helps me 3 or 5 years, then teaching also others. I mean, it shows the change that we subject. I was a young first or second year activist when my friend sitting in the front row was contesting election for the college prime ministership. I would campaign for him and said, बहुत अच्छा है, मेरे साथ स्कूल में भी था, इसके लिए वोट दो, सिगरेट भी नहीं पीता और दारू भी नहीं पीता. Somebody caught me and said, क्या कर रहे हो यार? यहाँ पे we did a calculation for 50% of the boys and girls don't like that kind of talk. I'm not saying that smoke or drink, I never said that. But why are you losing? This is the liberal. Mr. Raian Karanjawala, who is going to be our next, is one of the most illustrious examples of this university. He says when he studied here, St. Stephen's College and Hindu College were bastions of left liberalism, and Sri Ram College of Commerce was more with the Vidyarthi Parishad mode. I don't know where he got that from.
It was.
Okay, maybe. But let me. Ryan came from St. Stephen's College, went to Sri Ram College for Commerce. So not came from St. Columbus School, went to Sri Ram College of Commerce, became a lawyer. A lot of people become law. In my time, the bright guys, some bright guys went to law faculty, some took the exam, became babus like me. But it's one thing to become a lawyer, another thing to end up setting up one of the most prestigious firms of lawyers, not just in Delhi, in the country. So, Mr. Karanjawala, what is it that you learned in the university? Apart from your associations, and I'm going to give you a free run, which you would ascribe to not your inherent qualities, but where the university molded your or conditioned you for us to say, Ryan is my friend, leading law firm. Look, I happen to know his dear wife. There's no possibility she could have said that.
I don't know.
But I know Ryan says things for effect. He says that in school he was beaten up, at home he was beaten up. So his theory is that when a kid is beaten up and suddenly left into a university environment where there is no beating, and suddenly got freedom, then suddenly you flower. That may be part of the explanation. But for him to say that, because I didn't do well academically, I went to the law faculty and the legal profession was coming up. I know a lot of others who joined the law faculty around the same time. And I want to comment on them, they're all my friends as well. But what makes you tick? There must be something inherent, that spark, that ability, the associations, your ability to network, get the best lawyers. That's not the stuff on which big law firms are built. And let me also say, that's also how universities are built, brick by brick. You can't turn around in 100 years history and say, that's the phase where we did very well, but then we came back. No, the growth is both evolutionary and it's organic, and I have another cute term. But you must have got beaten up before the human rights activists took over and put a ban on child beating. What was it? Where were they then? They're not there in St. Columbus School? No. But he doesn't look to me to be a guy who was ever this thing. But thank you very much, Ryan, for bringing us such a crisp, honest, and what I would say a refreshing, thing to this whole so-called. I talk in my piece about 3 dilemmas I had, and those are dilemmas I'm still trying to resolve in my own way. But look, I had decided on this different format because I was going to make this interactive. It's been interactive so far. I'm now going to open this out to the audience, and I think we will be able to take a few questions. I'm going to have somebody take around some of the mics which are here. You can make a short comment, you can ask a question either to one of my distinguished panelists, or you can throw it at us and we'll decide who will take it. But please briefly introduce yourself. I just sent him a note, and he's such a wonderful human being. He first playing with Elavuni, then he said, when we said no, we think that any celebration of this university must draw the people. There are many, but he stands out as an icon of a generation in that part. And he wrote this piece, which I think is so beautifully crafted, which was from him, straight from his heart. And we said that we will use this as a forward. We asked him, and he very happily agreed. It's also my intention, and I will be talking to the publisher. Our idea is to do a series of these things during this, and I'm going to see if he's available. I will seek his convenience. Maybe we'll need a slightly bigger audience than this, especially if him and Imtiazi are both there. We'll not be able to manage the rest of us. We have our rapport with you, but it's a thing. So he very readily agreed. I made this point initially. I grew up along with, where is this young man who helped us put this, Rohit, where is he? Rohit, are you here? Yeah, please get up and take a bow. He did a lot of work which went into the production of this volume. Amazingly often. We produced, he and I sit down, produced, I think what a name, 93 names. And then we started, I wrote letters, we made some calls, and most of them agreed. As I said, few we could not take in because they agreed, but our date to go to the press was getting delayed, and we said, "Yaar, chhod do abhi," because it's not that. Even though we offered to, help out with, that is again a possibility and how this does. But I genuinely think that, this is a very different celebratory volume than what I've seen on other universities. This brings out, I think, the diversity, the cultural and intellectual vibrance, and what I think are the success stories. I don't like the word success very much because it's so subjective. But the literary, the people who make such a success of their passion, I think that's very unique. Otherwise you could take up, 10 engineers can write, 10 doctors can write. We would have liked to expand this more, and maybe we can consider this in another round as we go forward. Very well put, I had the privilege of being in the college when she was there, and apart from her academic proficiency and the first, I think BA and MA, she took to teaching. She could have joined any other profession. Of course, we then co-opted her in our other profession. coming back to that, there's something that worries me. When I started my professional life on the teaching faculty of St. Stephen's College, we were paid 400 rupees a month. And to me, getting that teaching job was far more important than anything that has happened to me in my life. And I say this with a degree of conviction. I got that teaching job because the gentleman who was teaching went on a sabbatical, Cambridge or somewhere. And Mr. Rajpal, who was the principal, asked me during the course of the interview, I bring that out in my chapter. He said, "Are you serious about teaching?" I said, "You give me a permanent job," and I am. Now, permanent job means if I have to start, I'm on the road again after a year, any lower middle class product would want security and you will appear in the IAS exam because that's the only thing you know how to do. Or you go for the one or two private sector. Today the world is very different. Today teaching faculty are paid respectable salaries, way beyond what was the case when we were entering into the job market. To restore that, I think you must allow individual institutions to develop their own niche, their centers of excellence. And this is a view I have. I mean, it's a very personal view. I'm not speaking on behalf of any industry. I mean, no matter which way you look at it, I've been a student activist, I worked in the private sector, I worked for the UN, I worked for the government. But at the end of the day, the kind of respect and resonance you get from being a good teacher, I think is unmatched. So I think what you say is very true. Let me exercise my right here as the moderator. This is about Delhi University and celebrating 100 years. The fact that there is some film which makes some outlandish advocacy for, perpetrating violence on X or Y, and just because you have a rock star here, doesn't mean we need to answer that. If I open this up to this question, I'm afraid there are many others here who would have their some petty hobby also. Forgive me, sir. I respect your position as a journalist, and I hope my dear friend and colleague will not mind. I think we will move. We have one or two other questions which we can answer. I see somebody, young lady who's just behind the camera waving her hand. Please introduce yourself. I'm not surprised you're a student of philosophy and therefore you ask a question which is absolutely, hitting some of the dilemmas I've had. What do you come to the university for? One is you come to learn, to educate yourself, but there are opportunities and there are options. If you want to do well academically, which must be, because you have to get enrolled, not all of us have the ability that Namita ji has. She could have done anything on her own. So you want to do well academically, but on the other hand, you don't want to be excessively focused on the academic part of your life. You also want to benefit from what university life has to offer. So each one of us reaches his own or her own balance. And I think therefore, what you are saying is absolutely correct, but these are individual choices. I know, for instance, somebody referred to this great auditorium. It had very good acoustics all the time. And somebody said, you always feel powerful standing here. I was debated from here. I said, by the way, this is the third time that the auditorium has got wind. Because when I entered the university in 68, I think it had been burnt down once. And then another one also. Now, some people took debating so seriously. I won't name the person because he became a colleague in the Foreign Service. He actually used to distribute trophies to the Hindu college audience, which I found very strange, because there is a good competitive urge, whether when a Hinduite goes across the road or a Slovenian comes here. So sometimes we did an analysis. He said, yeah, iska to explanation mil gaya. Now, if you take even debating seriously, it means you're enjoying it. Equally with, where I think the point that Dr. Kavita Sharma made, if you have faculty which inspires, faculty to which you look up to, Imtiaz was saying in his time is to call the teachers by their name. I dare not. I had some people on my teaching faculty who would have been appalled if I had called them by their first name. You started it, I'm very glad, but you were 1 year senior to me also. Yeah, but you started and I'm very happy, but he came much later. But, no, I was having a little difficulty, he said that PC Verma incidents were there. He was born in 1971. I was already, in MA previous by that time. But I think what you're saying is correct. How do we, it's like you go to a great feast and you obviously cannot partake of more than a few offerings. So you choose what you have and then you are able to put that and then you make a contribution. I think it's a very good question and I applaud you for that. Let me just say that I think we are now about reaching the time that we had allocated. Thank you all very much. Thank you all in particular for being such a receptive audience, and I don't know about the rest of them. I'm very sure if I had to appear for admission in the university and try to get into a college like this, it would have been almost impossible. Now, आपको तो शायद फिर भी मिल जाता, but मुझे तो मैंने अपने chapter में लिखा है. The world was in some ways easier then. But I congratulate all of you. I applaud you for your, academic diligence, etc. And I think all my colleagues and panelists here do three things. We want to wish all of you the very best in life. Please draw some strength from this. Any of you may like the chapters. I'm sure all of you will. I want to thank the publisher. I want to thank the publisher because it was his idea to bring out this anthology, and we also decided that since we were 100% sure that we were going to donate the proceeds to charity. So, can I invite the publisher to come up and Rohit, you also come up and is the Ryan will ask the last word. Ryan, you have the last word.
Hardeep, I just wanted to make a suggestion, especially since the publisher is here. Now that we're doing 100 years of Delhi University, and now that we all agree that no university can be as great without great teachers, maybe the time has come to bring out a small book on the 10, 20 great teachers of Delhi University in the last 100 years. And
I think it will be a very interesting exercise. Abhi Iyer, publisher. That will be a very interesting exercise. When I sit back here, and I'm a little older than most people around here, I mean, the great vice chancellors suggest themselves. You had Sir Maurice Geyer, maybe you named B.K.R.B. Rao, I would add K.N. Raj. I mean, many of you may or may not, I would add Dr. Sarup Singh, certainly, etc. And you can list them out. What were the great teachers and what? It's something that one can look at. It may not be Delhi University, it's like the great teachers of India kind of compilation. But you need to have a very careful jury kind of selection because many people will qualify. Again, here we followed. You had 93 who chose the first 15, they said yes. There, if you look at some of these people are already of the past tense. But I want to ask the publisher to come up and I want to have a photograph with the. Please come, Abhi Iyer. Please. Let's have a photograph with the.
Please give us a huge round of applause for this. This is such a moment of celebration.